Along one of the most volatile stretches of frontier in Central Asia, where Tajikistan's steep mountain ridges drop into Afghanistan's northern valleys, an attack has once again exposed a fragile and rapidly shifting security landscape. 3 Chinese nationals working at a remote mining site were killed when gunmen and a drone carrying explosives struck from across the border. It was the second fatal assault on Chinese workers in this sector in a single year, raising new questions about the region's stability, Tajikistan's strained relationship with the Taliban, and China's growing footprint in a part of the world where borders are porous and militant networks remain active. The strike also comes at a time when Central Asia is becoming strategically contested, with Russia distracted by the war in Ukraine and China rapidly filling the resulting vacuum, placing Beijing's workers and projects directly in the path of regional volatility. Tajik authorities confirmed that the strike took place in the Shamsiddin Shohin district, a rugged and sparsely populated region located directly along the 1,350-kilometer, 840-mile Tajik-Afghan border. According to the Tajik Foreign Ministry, the assailants used both small arms and a drone equipped with an explosive device to target a compound operated by Shohin SM, a private gold extraction company employing a significant number of Chinese nationals. Officials reported that the 3 victims, Chinese employees assigned to the facility, died instantly after the drone's explosive payload hit the workers' quarters. The ministry described the incident as yet another indication that armed networks stationed on Afghan territory continue to threaten stability in the border region, despite repeated assurances from Kabul that it has the situation under control. Tajik officials also highlighted that security forces were unable to respond in time due to the remote location and difficult terrain. The southern districts of Tajikistan have experienced recurring security incidents since the Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan in 2021. The mountainous terrain, limited infrastructure, and minimal state presence in certain border zones have created conditions in which armed groups can move or stage attacks with relative ease. Security experts note that the terrain itself acts as both a shield and a corridor. The Pamir and Hindu Kush mountain systems form overlapping networks of isolated passes, ideal for insurgent movement and cross-border smuggling. Groups affiliated with the Islamic State Khorasan Province, ISKP, various Central Asian extremist networks, and well-established criminal gangs are believed to operate in areas close to the frontier. Tajikistan's own history of civil conflict in the 1990s still shapes its security mindset, making policymakers extremely sensitive to cross-border instability. Among Afghanistan's neighbors, Tajikistan has been the most openly critical of the Taliban authorities. President Emomali Rahmon, who has governed his country since 1992, has frequently argued that instability in Afghanistan directly threatens all of Central Asia. He has also urged the Taliban to safeguard the rights of ethnic Tajiks in Afghanistan, estimated to comprise roughly a quarter of the Afghan population. Despite political friction, Tajikistan has cautiously maintained limited channels of engagement. Both sides have participated in local-level meetings, facilitated small trade interactions in border towns, and cooperated on electricity supplies. But these exchanges have not resolved deeper disagreements or eliminated mutual accusations about harboring hostile groups. Rahmon's public speeches have repeatedly warned that the Taliban's inability or unwillingness to dismantle regional jihadist networks could spill over into Tajik territory. This incident marks the second time in 12 months that Chinese workers have been targeted in the same frontier region. In late 2024, Tajik authorities reported that armed elements originating from Afghan soil carried out an assault that killed 1 Chinese national and wounded 5 others, including several Tajik citizens. The repeat attacks underline a pattern. Foreign workers, particularly those employed by Chinese mining and infrastructure firms, have become increasingly vulnerable in parts of Central Asia, where anti-Beijing sentiment is rising and militant groups view foreign economic projects as legitimate targets. Some analysts argue that extremist groups may also be reacting to China's crackdowns in Xinjiang, framing attacks on Chinese interests abroad as retaliation, however symbolic or opportunistic. China has become one of Tajikistan's most significant economic partners, especially in the mining sector. Dozens of Chinese companies operate in the country, often in mineral-rich but remote areas. Gold extraction, rare metals, and hydropower infrastructure form key pillars of Beijing's growing presence. The economic stakes are high. Tajikistan, one of the poorest states in the former Soviet Union, relies heavily on foreign investment to sustain growth. Chinese companies inject capital, equipment, and expertise into regions where domestic firms lack the resources to operate. Yet, as China's belt and road footprint deepens, the security risks to its personnel increase. Chinese workers have been targeted in Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Afghanistan, prompting Beijing to pressure host governments for stronger guarantees, a demand Tajikistan may now struggle to meet. The Tajik-Afghan border is one of the longest and most complex frontiers in the region. It runs through high mountains, deep gorges, and sparsely inhabited valleys, making surveillance extremely difficult. Since 2021, Tajik authorities have repeatedly claimed that extremist factions have used Afghan territory to position themselves near Tajik soil. For its part, the Taliban has often denied responsibility for cross-border violence, but has struggled to fully control non-state armed groups operating in peripheral provinces such as Badakhshan and Takhar. These areas host a mix of factions whose loyalties are fluid and whose agendas do not necessarily align with the Taliban's central leadership. This fragmented militant environment makes attribution of attacks murky and accountability difficult. Interestingly, the attack occurred at the same time as the Taliban Interior Ministry announced that a high-ranking delegation, led by the governor of Afghanistan's Badakhshan province and a senior Taliban border commander, was visiting Tajik territory for talks. According to the Afghan side, the meeting focused on cross-border coordination, security, and local economic matters. Tajikistan's foreign ministry has not formally acknowledged the visit, reflecting the political sensitivity of engagements between the two governments. This combination of diplomatic outreach and violent incidents underscores what analysts describe as a cold cooperation posture, a relationship where communication continues but deep mistrust persists. Some observers believe the Taliban's outreach aims to avoid Chinese retaliation, as Beijing remains one of the few major powers engaging with Kabul. Beyond the immediate security dimension, the attack comes as parts of Central Asia experience rising public frustration with Chinese investment. In countries such as Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, local tensions over working conditions, environmental concerns, and the influx of foreign labor have sometimes led to protests and clashes. These social pressures create an environment in which Chinese companies, and by extension Chinese citizens, face higher than average risks. Tajikistan has so far avoided large-scale anti-China demonstrations, but resentment exists in certain communities due to land use conflicts, mining pollution, and perceptions of unequal economic benefits. In its statement, Tajikistan condemned the cross-border incursion and emphasized that such actions undermine its efforts to stabilize border areas and build economic partnerships. Authorities also urged Afghan officials to take stricter measures to prevent militant activity near the frontier. Despite condemnation, the long-term challenge remains substantial. Tajikistan must navigate a complex three-way balance: maintaining national security, managing political tensions with the Taliban, and protecting critical economic relationships with China. As the region absorbs the impact of another deadly attack, both Tajikistan and China face difficult questions about how to secure vital projects in an environment where borders are porous, militant networks remain fluid, and political arrangements across the frontier are still evolving. The latest incident may accelerate discussions on joint patrols, expanded surveillance infrastructure, or deeper Chinese involvement in Tajik security, moves that could reshape regional geopolitics for years to come.